Welcome to our third and final installment of the Tech Talk series with Warren. My name is AJ Leeming. I'm your host from CSIA Ontario. Warren's coming to us from out west, and this is part of a series that was Think, Train, and Ski Better. And the previous two have been awesome. And Warren, I'm going to flip it your way if you're ready. And to everybody on the line tonight, enjoy, and we will be around again at the end for some questions. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, AJ. And one quick note, AJ, the polls are not showing up on my screen, so I'll have to rely on you to have the questions and all that kind of stuff ready for me. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. As AJ said, I know we're competing against Team Canada and my Maple Leafs, and but you know what? Bear with us here. Tonight's session's live time's probably about 40 minutes. Leave a little bit more time for Q&A at the end. And so here I want to start, this is our third one. This is about skiing better. I've mentioned before that, if you want to ski better, it starts with changing the way you think and changing the way you train. A lot of us, kind of fall into the same old patterns of thinking of skiing the same way, going out and training the exact same way every day. And tonight's more about, what is that target? What does good skiing actually look like? And that's kind of the third piece of the puzzle. You can, warm up properly. You can think differently about skiing. You can change the way that you train. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a very clearly defined target for you about what it is that you're trying to develop in your skiing, it's going to be really hard for us to hit that target. So that's what tonight is all about. I was looking through my technical information here to blow your minds on tonight's information, and I came across this book. It's called Power Skiing Illustrated, and it was published in 1949. And I don't know if it shows large enough on your screen to read the words or not, but these are the last three words in the book. So I'll read them to you now. I've got the book, right here. But anyways, so on the far left, the third last page, it says, skiing is simpler than most people will have you believe. I believe in that 100%. You make appropriate and power-giving motions with your shoulders. That's a bit new. You keep your hips comfortably centered over your skis, and then moving on to the next page, but you need think only of the turn, swivel, and side slip of your evenly weighted feet. And that's, I haven't quite figured that out. I was skiing at Sunshine Village today. Haven't quite got that sorted out, but I'm working on it. And then the final page is this. You flatten your upper instep against the snow by either stepping it uphill, by swiveling it downhill, or by jumping both feet uphill. Then you follow through. And the final piece there is, and you feel the vibrant, wild rhythm that is the essence of skiing. And you know what? When I read that, I thought, well, I have nothing else to add. So there you go. Tonight's Tech Talk is officially over. We'll move on. I thought that was incredible. I don't know if you are history buffs about skiing or anything like that, but picking up, you can find this stuff all over the place. And it is incredible to see where we've come from. And, that when I look more into that book, that was with the old telemark-like bindings, right? The heel piece wasn't locked down and so on and so forth. So you can imagine how things have progressed. And, there's a lot of stuff in this book that, thank goodness, are no longer in our technical approach to skiing anymore. But, that's part of that think different too piece of the puzzle, that, we are on different equipment than we used to be. And I passed my level 4 on straight skis, if you can believe it. I know I look a lot younger than I am, but at the end of the day, there are things that we used to do on straight skis that we don't need to do anymore. But a lot of times we kind of keep those, I call them hangovers from the 80s, the straight skis sort of thing. So, that's the whole package here tonight. Finishing it off, hopefully will give you that image in your mind of what you want to train towards. So I thought I'd do a quick review tonight of the previous two sessions. It'll only take a few minutes. But the new stuff tonight, we're going to talk about our physical warm-up for skiing, how we get the body moving for skiing, our technical warm-up, and then what I call developing our robo skier. If we were to grab pieces from our favorite skiers all over the world and put them together into one, that would be, in my mind, the ultimate skier. So that'll be how we finish things off tonight. So let's take a quick review here, in the think better component that, we talk about the ski design. That's what describes our arc. We have movements that tip the ski or engage the ski design. Then that puts us on an arc. We need to then move our bodies in ways to balance on that arc so our skis can continue to work most efficiently and effectively. And everything that we do is for an objective, right? And so I created a little video as a kind of a review here. I'll play that and we'll be right back. All right, let's review session number 1, where we're thinking differently about skiing. And first and foremost, what we're looking at is the ski design. Every single turn in the world, whether it be a wedge turn or a World Cup GS turn, it all utilizes ski design first and foremost. So, we watch and we talked about this, that when we tip the ski over, it bends. And if the snow is a little bit softer, it will bend more because the ski will sink. And as the ski bends, it will prescribe an arc for us. We have movements that we use to tip the ski over, right? Those are specific body movements. They are intentional to get the ski tipped over onto their side. And from there, what we do is we use our bodies to balance on the arc that our skis are designed for us. So take a look here. There are a few ways that we balance. We balance to the outside ski here by connecting. That's something we talked about last time. We balance rotationally, controlling that in the pelvis, and take another little bit further along. Balance in how much our joints are bent or not, right? So that's all balancing on the arc that our skis are creating for us as a result of utilizing the ski design. Okay, and then with our ski, we talked about the fact that I can tip it over, and with the weight of my body, it will bend the ski and help prescribe the arc. Or if I need to, I can also twist the ski on the surface of the snow as I tip it over and have that bend and take us where the ski is designed to take us. And all of these actions and degrees are all built around a defined objective. Okay, so one being the corridor width is one way that we define our turn shape, right? How far across the slope we go per turn. Another objective is how far down the hill we go, right? So our vertical drop per turn. And also, how carved is it? Let's take the first one, looking at the skier on the right. Very similar to the turns we've seen, a carved arc, right? Where everything tips over, get the ski design working. But then the skier on the left, watch this time around, where the skier is a little less tipped over, a little more vertical, so the skis can turn and twist on the top of the snow before the skis are engaged. And when you take those combinations, we have endless possibilities, everywhere from a short, kind of partially skidded arc on a steep terrain to more of a carved arc, a little bit higher speeds here, same sort of idea, steeper, a little bit faster, or somewhere in between, where sometimes our turns require a little bit of a twist, and sometimes then as it gets a little bit flatter maybe, and the skis, then I can just tip them over and have more of a carved arc. All right, so there you go. That's the review on how we think about skiing. That ski design, as I mentioned, the movements, and we talked specifically about that in session number 1. So if you have the chance to go back, you can always take a look at that session. Balancing on the arc that the skis are prescribing for us, and then keeping everything within a defined objective. If we don't have that objective, we don't have anything to measure our performance against. So if I'm adding a move that is supposed to shrink my vertical drop down the mountain, or narrow my corridor down the mountain, or add a little bit more grip, so I have more carved versus less carved. If I don't have a defined objective of what those moves are going to do for me, it's impossible for me to self-reflect and assess whether I was successful or not. Then we moved into our train better session, right? And train better. This one, we had to define it. When you're training, you have to define your motivation, right? We find that intrinsic motivation, so where you're just trying to be the best that you can be in that given moment on the day, and so on and so forth with the terrain, maybe the equipment you're on. But picking that as your motivation sometimes can make our training a little bit more successful, versus when our training is specifically for an extrinsic motivator, such as a ski off and passing our ski off. When ski offs are really a maneuver, right? You've got a short turn, you've got a big turn, you've got medium-sized turns, and so on and so forth. And if you go out and you train every day specifically for those runs, then that's your ceiling at the time. If you go out to train just to be a better skier and ingrain new movements into your skiing and be able to adjust, the result and measure that against your objective, then when you go to practice your ski off maneuvers, then you're at a point where you're just adjusting your dials, and we'll talk about that in a second, to achieve the turn shape that is described by the CSIA, right? The outcomes that the performance criteria that we're actually looking for when you're being assessed against a specific standard. We talked a lot about deep practice and finding the edges of your ability to train within. When we train within, kind of near the edge, the upper edge of our current ability, we're going to find ourselves making mistakes. And again, the caveat here is we always want to be safe, right? And you have to be within your ability range, but near the end, you're going to make mistakes when you try something new. It's those oh no moments that make you realize, oh, I tried to move a certain way so that my skis would do a certain thing on the snow, and that would result in a different turn shape than what I'm used to. I didn't quite get it. Maybe I have to do that move sooner. Maybe I have to do it later. Okay. And so operating at the edges of your ability comes, and that can change every run. It can change partway down a run. So what I talk about is your readiness to learn. And we've got our 3 checkpoints. Okay? And it's a completely subjective scale. You check in with yourself. I do it every morning. I do it multiple times. Today I did it a number of times, even on one particular run. And so I check in with my physical state of being, right? What's moving today? What's not moving today? I'm finding every year I get out on skis, there's something else that maybe it takes longer in the day to get moving, or it doesn't move like it used to. But I check in with my physical side of things. I check in on the cognitive end of things. I check in what do I actually know the move I'm trying to make? Do I know what it's supposed to do with my skis? And do I know what that should end up being as the difference in my turn shape? So I check in with that. Am I clear on what it is I'm trying to add to my skiing that day? And then my third piece of the puzzle is that psychological piece. Based on how I'm feeling, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the snow conditions, maybe it's like today, super, super busy in a couple of sections. And so my confidence level on a couple of runs today went from 10 out of 10 down to a 3 out of 10 because there's some rocks, there were people, I backed right off. But for us to train at the edge of our ability, I'm constantly assessing those 3 things, kind of get an average. I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. So that means, I could probably go pretty quick on a decently steep run and really try to achieve, that new level of ski performance or whatever it might be. There are times where I said, no matter, I was training a certain move in my skiing today. It was trying to get, a little bit steeper edge angle at a certain part in the arc. And all of a sudden I got to that 3 out of 10 because I wasn't confident anymore. The light got flat. I hit a couple of bumps that I didn't see and I backed right off. But instead of just wasting the rest of my run, I went to a slow, to a lesser pitch, and I decided to work on the same movement, but at a much slower pace. So that was my decision. And I was able to still train at a point where I can develop my skiing in the day. And we talked about our training strategies. Training strategies is about adding something to your skiing. You don't want to try to fix something that you already have. You want to add something you don't have. If you try to fix something you already have, you're going to be banging your head against the wall all day, because what happens is that's the move you have because you need it. All right, because there's something missing. Maybe it's in your understanding. Maybe it's in just your physical ability, or not, or it's just a move you didn't even know existed in skiing. And then your body will naturally find balance, right? And so you will find ways to make it to the bottom safely, get as much grip as possible, control your speed as much as possible. And at that point, if you try to change the things that are going wrong for you, as opposed to adding something that you're missing, that's when you're going to find that you're going to be developing and changing your skiing, actually changing it, not just fine tuning what it is that you do. We have dials that we use for every move. We can make the move sooner or later in the arc. We can make it faster. We can make it more progressive. We can do more. We can do less. And all of those will affect our turn shape. And when we start playing with some of those dials, we start to realize that, oh, if I do it more, or if I do it faster, then this is what happens. And you start learning these if-then scenarios, and that will be gold as you continue to develop your skiing, because you'll know what to do and when, what works, what doesn't work. And then that last little piece, go slow sometimes. And it doesn't just mean skid all over the place, but it means be as precise in your movements as possible, right? You can move really, really slow. You will notice very quickly at slow speeds if you're losing your balance and moving something that shouldn't be moving at that particular time. So there's our quick review of our previous 2 sessions, but it really does set us up for tonight. So here's our first bit. We're going to talk about our physical warm-up. And so AJ, if you can, please, let's run the first poll. It's very quick. Before you get sliding on snow, do you have any sort of physical warm-up? Do you swing your leg a couple of times? Do you just kind of, yawn and stretch your arms up over your head? Do you have any sort of physical warm-up?
You've got one person participating so far at
that was 100%.
Me. There we go. Now we're getting responses in.
There we go. Oh, yes is winning. I like this. I like this. Awesome. All right. Cool. Great to hear that people are doing something. So here's what my physical warm-up entails, right? And why I do it. Number one is to activate specific muscles. Walking to my car in the morning, throwing my skis in the ski box and putting my boots on and all that kind of stuff doesn't necessarily get all of my muscle groups required for skiing activated. So that's one of the first reasons for our physical warm-up. The second reason is to make it ski specific. We know very well that we can be in a gym and do a lot of things. We can ride our bikes, we can go running, we can canoe, we can do all those types of things, but not all. There's so many things that we do that don't actually relate to our specific sport, because our sport is so unique. So this gets us, as much the muscles groups very specific to skiing. And it starts to give me that awareness of my internal sensations. What's stiff today? What's not stiff? But also, when I start doing some of these warm-ups, it gets the muscles engaged. And those are the internal sensations that I actually seek while skiing. So as an example, if I'm doing a squat or a single leg squat, I can feel the glutes engage and all that kind of stuff. From there, that's an engagement that I need through my transition while I'm skiing. So if I can get that internal sensation working before I start sliding, there's a better chance I'll get it right off the bat. So here's the second video of a warm up. You don't have to go through all of these at all, but at the end of the day, these are as ski specific as I can get them. Here are a number of exercises you could do in the morning. Obviously, you don't have to do them all, but these are great exercises just to get yourself ready specifically for our sport, right? For skiing. This one here, you start, on both legs, up on your toes, you drop down and then explode up and land on one foot. We are so balance on one leg side more than the other in our sport that it's important to wake them both up, right? These ones here, you get onto, you find your 3 points of contact, or your 2, right? Your met head and your heel pad, and you find that landing, you stomp it and pause for a second and then go again, right? You do it forwards, you do it backwards, you do it from one side to the next. It gets your heart rate up, but it really starts to fire up the muscles that we use, in skiing at all times, right? You can start going from one side, one foot to the next in these ones as well. And as we balance, try to stick those landings. They're, hard to do. You can up the difficulty a little bit, getting up onto a step or up onto, a box. Get the heart rate going, get the fast twitch muscles moving. Again, one side to the next. And these really start to simulate what it is we need to do in our skiing, right? So if you take a look here, at that, when you get to that point of platform creation, that's the muscle groups that are going to be working at that point. This one here really gets our upper body and lower body working, because as the elastic is trying to pull away from the direction that my chest is facing. So that really helps us, if you compare it to the skiing on the side, that dissociation between the upper and lower body. This is abduction, and gets the glutes and the hips moving, get those joints working for us, and those muscle groups going. Get yourself up onto a plank. This one here, the Copenhagen's, I hate these ones. They're the hardest. But this is the adduction, right? And this is what we use quite a lot of to get the ski tipped over. Now you're getting the glutes firing. That's the muscle group that's going to really support us between our upper and lower body, which allows us to then isolate the lower body and, move just in the legs. You're going to get into conditions and situations where, we also have to react. We're not always 100% in charge of what's going on down there. Getting somebody to drop a light medicine ball or something like that. A little bit more explosion. Here, getting the glutes working to there, and then the quads, everything back up. This, simulates, the movement patterns through transition. An eccentric load, just kind of lowering down nice and slowly here. It kind of simulates that bottom half of the arc under load. And so a lot of those, if you look in the skiing here, those movements that we're doing in the physical warm-up, they're all happening here in full motion as we're skiing. All right. So, I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't go through all of those this morning. Today was less of a training specific day for me. Today I was skiing with my son and having a lot of fun out there. But I did notice that when I first started skiing, my first couple of runs, it took me longer to get to a point where I felt comfortable and confident, because I didn't go through my full training warm-up type of routine that I normally do. So now let's talk about a technical warm-up. Okay. Now, if I've done my physical warm-up, and then now I've got my boots on now, I'm on the snow. Now I start to warm up my technique. Okay. And that's getting the movements going. It's exaggerating the movements. It's trying to put them in a spot where I can feel those muscles again, right? So I try to tie it into that physical warm up. I do final form first. I don't get out there and start skidding around and hopping and all that kind of stuff, because I've done my physical warm up. What I'm trying to do at final form first, now I'm not saying I go 100% on a really steep run, but I go to feel what's working and what isn't working in my skiing, as opposed to sliding around doing a bunch of, I used to do a lot of bricage type things and stuff like that. But I get final form first to self-assess where I am at that particular day. So I've got another video here. I'm going to run you through. This would be a very generic warm up for me in my skiing once I kind of get out onto the snow. Once I have my body warmed up, then I get out onto snow. All right, and where I start with is first thing I do is when I start sliding, I search for my 3 points of contact. First met head, heel pad, and then both shins in contact with the front of the boot. From there, then you've got your equipment on, right? So hopping to those 3 points of contact, skis on, hop down the hill, make sure I can get my body moving so I can balance in the middle of the outside ski. From there, I get 1 or 2 runs, start easy groomed, nice and slow, but it's finished product, right? I don't start with a whole bunch of barragey type things or anything like that because my body's warmed up. I will throw in some skidded arcs or less carved turns here, but I don't get super exaggerated. And then from there, I add a little bit of speed. You start to see the body exaggerating some of the moves, that move to connect to the outside to make sure that I'm really feeling that outside ski, right? And it's getting some of those movements warmed up. Then I test myself, can I get on that outside ski and stay balanced on it, utilizing the movements through the warm-ups, the physical warm-up and the earlier runs. And then I'll funnel it in, right? Start some bigger ones and then start to funnel it into something smaller. And this really gets your head going too, right? That we also have to get our brains warmed up. So by really thinking through the movement patterns, through moving through, big to small, those types of things also get you warmed up cognitively as well. Okay, so now we've got another poll here AJ will put up, and this one is, do you do a technical warm-up? Again, specific, similar to what I just showed you there. Let's hear from you now. Oh, the no's are climbing up there. Come on, throw in a couple more yeses, everybody. Oh, no bars moving. All right, very good though. It's just interesting to see, and again, I'll be honest, I don't always go through my full technical warm up. Again, it depends on my day and what my goals are, but I will 100% on a training day where I'm trying to develop my skiing. This is exactly these 2 videos. That's what I'll do to prepare myself to reach where I want to go. The next thing that I do then, so now I kind of started moving the body the way it needs to move for skiing, is then I'll go through a series of drills. Okay, now this gets you exaggerating a little bit more. I try to repeat the movements as much as I can, and or a drill that will isolate a particular part of the body, particular part of the turn. And that's kind of my I call it my RIE rule, my repeat, isolate, exaggerate. If any drills that you do at least one of those, right? If not all 3 in a drill, that's going to give you the best chance to get yourself skiing and moving the way that you need to move. Everything that I do here always has a specific objective in mind. So as I go through these drills, if the objective is to feel more balance on the outside ski, or to feel or notice that my turn shape is more carved or versus less carved, if it's to tip the ski over more, so I can shrink my vertical drop, down the hill, those types of things. Everything has a purpose. If you don't have that objective and that purpose in mind as you're performing the drill, then you're perfecting the drill for the sake of the drill and not for what it's going to do for your skiing. So here's another quick video here that will take you through I've got 3 core drills that I do every day. I modify them here and there, but at the end of the day, these are the foundation for my skiing, for what I teach and how I help people develop. These are the core foundations that I use in my skiing. Once I have my body warmed up, then I get out onto snow. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, everyone. Just a sec. I played the wrong video. Here we go. There it is. Apologies. I have 3 sort of go-to drills. I'll vary them a little bit, choose different terrain and different turn shapes, but these are my 3 foundational drills that I use to create the movements required to be balanced on the outside ski, to tip the outside ski over, and to align properly as we balance on the arc that is created. So here's number 1. Here's my connect drill. This one's quite basic, right? So when you have a skier that's kind of leaning away from the outside foot a little bit, like I am here, and I want to get a little bit more balance to the outside foot, so from here, this lean to a little bit more there. I get this one where I put the poles in my elbows, kind of tip down to the outside ski. I progress that by hopping down, sticking the landing, balancing on that one ski to create what we're looking for in here that I want there. And you see the same thing from, if I just tilt this on 45, that position, balanced, connected, looks exactly the same. Here's that drill as I move down the hill a little bit, right? I usually pick a green run for this, so I don't have to worry too much about speed control, right? And then, you build it into the, back into the hole, and there it is in the full motion sort of idea. Here's my alignment drill.
Here's what I mean about the balance from tip to tail, with the balance here being in the rotational axis of the pelvis. If I turn my pelvis down the hill, then my weight automatically starts to shift back to the heel. I lose my shin contact, and I even lose a little bit of weight underneath my toes. On the other side of that, if I turn the pelvis towards the tips a little bit, then I get right back to the middle of my foot, but shin contact, first met head, and heel pad. Now, if I go too far, well, then I can lose the tail. But you can see here, my balance from tip to tail of the ski is all controlled here with how much counter I have in my pelvis.
Okay, so let's take a look at this drill in action. Now, this drill here, by putting the poles across your hips and pushing back with the palms of your hands, any movement rotationally in the pelvis you're going to notice it, you're going to feel it, and your whole body is going to align with where your pelvis is. And so this is one of those drills that exaggerates the movement that we're doing. It isolates that part of the body so you can really sense the results of this action that we have in our skiing. Okay, so starting in here, right, getting everything aligned as the ski tips over and it starts to arc down the hill, the pelvis is going to go on the arc as well, your frontal plane, right? So through here, okay, and as a result, everything stays quite long and everything, is matching kind of the top sheet, right? So everything is tipped over, creating a really steep line of inclination. Remember, this is an exaggeration drill. There we go. And at the end, right, everything's kind of facing the same direction. There's always a little bit of counter in our skiing to balance on that outside ski. But watch what happens on this next one when I overdo it. So when I get too rotated in the pelvis, I go too far, then there. Now I'm on my inside leg. I've lost the tail of the outside ski. And for that, that's super obvious for me, right? As the skier, also for the observer, you can see the results of what happens, you can feel it, and you can internalize that in your training. Okay, and here's my favorite drill for platform creation. Now, this one's a pretty difficult one. You need to be a relatively, balanced skier to start with. But, here's how it starts. You start by picking up the downhill ski, then you roll your uphill ski onto flat, and you keep rolling it until you get your edge angle, and then you balance from there. And watch, if the pelvis is, if our rotational alignment is bang on, then look at from the side. Everything is aligned, right? And this is what we're talk about. We don't want to be moving the hip in or too open, because then the hip is going to end up a little bit too far back. Let's take a look at that one more time. Kind of coach you through it. So, you start with a regular turn, right? I'll show you watching it, and then you just balance on the uphill foot. So I'm balancing on my right foot. I'm not changing my body position. And then from there, now I use those adductor group of muscles, the internal rotators, to tip the ski over. I let the body balance to the inside as I'm doing that, and I align myself rotationally so that I've got good balance between the tip and the tail. There it is one more time. Roll across. So, because you're going for more of an edged arc on this one, you've got to, I pick a green piece of terrain, but I go at advanced speeds. Okay, so that's my drill for that. All right. So, those again, there's drills there that are going to completely change your turn shape, right? And your objective. And when you tie that piece of the puzzle in with the movement and you exaggerate it, isolate it, repeat it as many times as possible, you've got the best chance of starting to build that new pathway in your brain that's going to become that new superhighway of information, and get your body moving the way you want it to, and actually changing your skiing. Great. So let's move on here. And this is the kind of the last piece of the puzzle. This is the robo skier. I'm going to show you the video first, and then we'll review it afterwards. Okay, so this is my favorite project to do. It's finding skiers that I like to watch that make the movements that I'm trying to add or improve in my skiing. So let's take a look through, and I'll show you, starting with platform creation here. Here's one of my favorite skiers in the world. I'm going to use some racers to start with. This is Alexei Pantero. Now, what I like about Alexei here is the way that he balances, right now. So this is where he starts to balance on the new outside ski and then rolls the ski over, right? He doesn't push himself away from the outside ski. He doesn't push himself up. He just rolls across, okay? And the timing is crucial on this. His momentum's redirected past one panel, and now it's time to create his new platform. So he rolls right across to there, okay? So that's platform creation with Alexei. Now let's take a look at Michaela Scherfen. Now Michaela does this extremely well as well. All the top ski racers do, right? So, where we get her to, when, she's creating that new platform, so watching through, starts right about there, and then she rolls the ski over using the mechanics that we've talked about in previous sessions. So starting in here, she's going to start to balance on that left leg and drive across. And as she does that, again, very similar. It's not a big push up, right? It's a roll across. And that's one of the things you have to be careful of making this movement pattern, that when you balance on the ski, it's balancing on it and tipping it over. It's not pushing on that outside ski. All right, so now here's a couple of skiers where I like to look at the rotational alignment. Okay, so where they're not getting too open. And what's pretty cool about these two that are coming up is this is Patrick Bates. He tips the ski over quite a lot. And everybody says, whoa, the hip's getting close to the ground. But he doesn't move the hip down, right? We tip the ski over. And the reason that he can get so balanced on the outside ski here, you can see it really bending in here, is because he doesn't open up the hips too much, right? There's not too much counter. There's enough to stay balanced and connected to the outside ski, but not so much that he loses pressure on towards the front of the ski there, right? So super alignment in here. Very similar platform creation as the previous two, but as soon as those skis start to arc, the hips come around as well. Our frontal plane also has to go and follow the arc that the skis are making. And you can really see it in here. And then we'll get a shot from the back as well. All right, so watch, from here, you're almost at a flat ski. Now the ski's starting to tip over there. And as soon as it starts to arc, then up in this area also turns on the arc as well. Okay, there's just enough counter in his skiing there to stay balanced and connected to the outside ski. Okay, but again, tipping the ski over is the crucial part. Valentina Fankhauser, same movement pattern, same sort of balance, on the arc as well, rotationally right in through here. Right? So watch her balance on that new ski. She's going to create her platform, but already the pelvis is starting to turn, and as a result, this edge angle can get really steep. And, yes, like I've mentioned before, does the hip get close to the snow? Sure, but none of these skiers are starting vertical and driving the hip down into the snow. They're tipping the ski over, and as a result, you end up closer to the snow. All right, and then two more movements to connect. Daniela Ceccarelli, she's a Super G bronze medalist in the Olympics way back when. Met her at Interski in 2015, I think it was. But anyway, so this is her movement right in through here, right? This move to connect. As everything's tipping over down below, there's this nice move here to stay connected to that outside foot right in through there. Okay, and you can see that movement pattern. Again, it's not that the hip's moving down and in. The skis are tipping the skier over, and the skier is balancing to the outside ski right there. Okay, so watch her do it again, and right there. All right. This is a new skier that I found, Nikolai. He's got a really nice movement pattern right in there, right? You can see him get that connection. Again, very similar to the other skiers. Gets a really steep, edged platform up in here, but this move to stay connected and stay balanced to the outside ski is critical for, to balance out that real steep edge angle that he was able to make there. There you go. So then here it is. Here's the final robo skier. So what I like to do then is I take and this is my imagery, right? This is my visualization that I use when I go out and when I'm training any one of or all of these movement patterns. So, watching each of these skiers kind of one right after the next, right? You'll notice there's a ton of similarity in the movement patterns that we talked about, right? And these are the foundational movements in all of our skiing. Okay, so this is the piece of the puzzle. You start looking at, those areas in their skiing that you want to develop. And you'll never look like these skiers. I don't look like these skiers. Only they look like themselves, right? But you can make the same motor patterns. So it'll be you making these motor patterns, right? Just like none of these skiers look exactly the same on this video as well. So remember that as you develop your skiing and you put it together and then watch yourself on video, you can make the similar movement patterns to get the same turn shape or, turn objectives we've talked about. But don't worry about, you're never going to look exactly like anybody else out there. So anyways, that's the robo skier. Go on to YouTube. There's tons of great skiers out there. Find the movements that you're looking to develop and add those to your skiing. Find some images that you like to create, because I've never found any one skier that makes the movement I'm trying to make exactly the same, in all parts of the arc. So I pick and choose. I find the best parts of the skiers that really demonstrate what it is I'm working on, and that's what I put together in my robo skier. There you have it. That's the robo skier project. I do this with a lot of my private clients that to help us, decide what they're going to work on in their skiing and find something, some imagery for them, and work towards that. My point here, the biggest point, if you take anything from tonight, is that without an image, an emotion picture image, not just stills from a book. Or pictures. But if you have an image in your mind of what the movement pattern that you're trying to add to your skiing looks like, that's going to give you a target, right? If you don't know what good skiing looks like, then it's going to be really hard to achieve that in your own skiing. So that's the big piece of the puzzle there. They'll leave you with the final statement here from the Power Skiing Illustrated book from 1949. And so, everything we talked about in this video, and feel the vibrant, wild rhythm that is the essence of skiing. I love that. I'm going to try and memorize that and use that as my season progresses here. One fun thing here, and I'll put in my little advertisement. But if you're looking to come out west at any point this season, unless you're in BC right now, then going east, I've got a wonderful camp at Lake Louise, third week of March, best time of year, great snow. It's a 4-day camp, 2 coaches. We're staying at the iconic Chateau Lake Louise. Lunches are included, a whole bunch of stuff. You can find that at warrenjobbitt.com. And here's my information, and let's open it up to questions.
Phenomenal. So Warren, thanks again. Really appreciate that, and maybe let you catch your breath for a sec. So to the team on the line, if you've got a question, a number have come in so far. I'm going to publish those up quickly right now, so everyone will see the questions that have come in. If there's someone else that's asking something that you're curious about, feel free to give that a like, and then that way we don't have to have duplicate questions, and we can sort of try to pick off the ones that are most top of mind. And then Warren, what I'll do is I'll jump in and I'll bring each question up sort of to maximize it on the page so that we can field those. Perfect. So we'll just give people a moment to get their questions in if they have them. And you should be looking at the published questions now. And I can see people are figuring out how to vote on those. So feel free to give them a like if there's something that you really want to hear Warren get into. So I'll bring one up on screen for you, Warren. This is from Virgilia.
Great question. I would, one of the things that I'll do is I'll spin on my bike before I head to the hill. Especially if my legs are stiff, or if I get out of bed in the morning, you do that self-assessment while things are not moving. I'll do 10 minutes or so just to kind of get some, the fluid kind of rolling around the knees and the joints and stuff. Then I typically have anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour before I get to the hill and on snow. So I do these other ones, before I put my boots on, like that physical warm up, and then take 10 or 15 minutes, get the boots on and go. One of the issues, I'll be completely honest with you, that I run into sometimes is, if I do too much of a physical warm up and I get too hot, too sweaty, then you're going out into minus whatever it might be, minus 38 that we had here a few weeks back. Not awesome. And so, there's that component to it as well. In those situations, I'll move through a range of motion a little bit slower. Don't do as many hops, that kind of idea, but still get my range of motion going. The closer you can do it to being on snow, the better. Maybe within 15, 20 minutes would be ideal. For me, if we warm ups at home, sit in the car, get out of the car, then I'm struggling. When I was 15, 16, 17 years old, maybe that was a different story. But at my advanced age now, I find that I have to get it done just before I get out on snow.
Awesome. So we'll bring up another one. Here's one from Monique, I'm sorry.
All right. When training in the early season, the process and outcome is mostly training to brain and physical experience match. Performance comes when we perform, i.e. Ooh, good one. Thank you, Monique. I don't, actually, we talked about this last year in our how to train session last year. I don't think we talked about it last time. Bad me. Anyways, there's definitely learning brain, right? So you're trying to learn something new, and then performing brain. The tying things into the objective is how we go from learning brain to performing brain. And I'll get to I'm a little explain. I'll get to the final answer here. Don't worry. But so first it's changing the way you think, right? Then you have to find a new way to move, and then you have to measure that based on your desired outcome or what that should do in your objective. Should this tighten it up? Should this change my timing? So on and so forth. And then you measure those things. As you go through that if-then scenario situation, okay, so if I move a bit faster before I hit the crest and get onto something steeper, then I do change my turn shape for what I need it to be. So that's the learning component. When we switch to performance side of things, then it goes in reverse. So once you've learned it that way, so if you learn through that process and then you're skiing down and in performance, your ski off or it's race day, whatever it might be, and all you're doing is you're looking at the terrain, you go, oh, it gets a little bit steeper here, better tighten my arc, and then it goes in reverse. Then the body does the right move and all the way back through the system. Every day you should be able to take a step forward in your skiing. Okay, if you take the training system that we're talking about, if you warm up physically, warm up skiing, and then pick the move, add the move, you're going to get some sort of learning component going on. Every day needs to be add a bit of performance to it, in the sense that you take your if-then solutions that you've come in, or recognitions that have come in throughout your training component, and you just try to go for that, right? So, okay, so when I did it faster, I was able to achieve the outcome I need on the steep pitch and the short radius turn for your ski off, per se, or that sort of idea. So when you get that going, you've got to do that every day. That's the part of our reflective learning loop, right? The collaborative teaching approach. When we start to just try to perform something once you've learned it. So every day there's got to be a component of performance. I would say it varies. I tend to keep a training day for myself within a 3-hour time block, around about, give or take, depending on my day. And I usually reserve the last, within the last hour, the final, not the final 15 minutes. That's kind of a skiing cool down, kind of a wrap up, sort of debrief to myself. But the 45 minutes prior to that, then that's where I would start to just say, okay, I had this move. This is what it did for me. Now I'm going to go try and control my speed on the pitch. I'm going to try to, change my turn shape and that sort of thing. If you start finding right away that, you're not reaching that turn objective, then you haven't learned the piece of the puzzle yet. So you go back to that, and maybe you don't perform it again that day. But if you have those aha moments, those oh no moments, and you recognize the if-then scenarios, go for it. Get out there and try to hit the performing side of things.
Awesome. Bring another one up for you. Here was one from Pierre.
Once you've tipped the skis and start balancing on the outside ski, do you bend the inside knee up while keeping it on the snow? Great question. Here's my philosophy on things. If I'm perfectly balanced on the outside leg and perfectly aligned, the inside leg is going to be exactly where it needs to be. I don't teach people to activate the inside leg, move the inside knee out of the way. If the inside knee is in the way, it's because your alignment on the outside leg is misaligned. It can help if you can lift the inside knee up without changing the way you're standing, then you don't have to think about that. If by moving the inside knee up, it changes the way you're standing so that you can lift it up. Well, then the piece of the puzzle that's missing isn't the lifting the inside knee, it's the move that you made so you could lift the inside knee. So I teach alignment towards the outside ski or on the outside leg, and very little about the inside, because that's more of it's a symptom as opposed to the cause being that misalignment.
Awesome. I'm going to bring one up from Luke.
Engaging the ski early and speed control at the top of the arc. Skiing. Okay, if I'm reading it correctly, you're saying that when we get an earlier edge, or engaging the ski early, you get going a bit too fast. I think that's where it's coming from. So that's how I'll answer the question. So two things. If you're, I think in my experience, a lot of our skiers are moving inside, right? You're trying to get the hip down. You're trying to move inside to get the ski tipped over. When that happens, then automatically your body will counter, and it'll counter too far. And based on what we've talked about in our sessions, when you over counter, weight moves towards the back of the ski. So the tail, and because of the width of the tail will dig into the ski or into the snow, and it will push you around the corner. And when you look back, you will notice that there's a pencil line in the snow. It's carved, but boy, do you ever get going fast doing that. So if we're aligned properly, rotationally for one, balanced properly tip to tail, then the shovel of the ski, this is my ski here, the shovel will bend, right, and pull across the hill. It'll pull you into the fall line and across the fall line. And the ultimate goal is to shrink your vertical drop. So in and out of the fall line in a shorter period of vertical drop. And when we do that, you're not going to get going too fast. I can actually, one of my challenges, when I say ski slow, that doesn't necessarily mean that we skid all over the place. When I ski slow, it can be on a pure carved arc on a steep run as well. And it's just shrinking that vertical drop. Get the ski, you've got to tip it over more, but the shovel has to be engaged. It's not engaged by moving forward or pressing forward. It's by being aligned properly in the pelvis, and that will still control your speed. So, for the biggest piece of the puzzle is how are you engaging the ski early, and getting that carve to start. Define that, and then you'll probably be able to find the way to align differently, so that when you're up on a steep edge angle, the ski bends because it's so steep. Again, if you're balanced in the middle of it, that bends so much that it can't help but cut across the hill faster, or in less vertical drop. And that's how you can still control your speed. Now, on the arc itself, you'll feel like you're going 100 kilometers an hour, which is great. But coming down the mountain, you're not coming down the mountain any faster. So if you're carving and you're getting in fewer and fewer turns as you get further down, I can almost guarantee it that you've kind of moved the hip in to get the head edge on, countered too much, and it's only the tail, the back, 1/3 of your ski that's actually making that carve and the turn shape for you, and you'll result in going faster and faster.
Great. Another one with many likes from Monique here for you.
The triangle of doom. I love that terminology. With the cause be further up the arc, like the beginning of the turn, rather than fixing the symptom. Absolutely. So it's a really loaded question, Monique. I love it. So what, first and foremost, just your final statement, fixing the symptom. Like I said earlier on tonight, if you're focusing on changing what you look like at a specific part of the turn, because it doesn't look like what your instructor or coach wants you to look like, then all you're doing is fixing a symptom, right? We all look the way we do because of the way we move. We move a certain way because of our bodies. We move a certain way because of our understanding of skiing. And to try to fix that is a Band-Aid fix, right? So, the triangle of doom, in my travels, it comes from two things. Number one, when the skier presses forward and really drives the knee inward. So a lot of typically the knee joint is relatively straight or quite straight at the start of the arc. So then all they can do is push forward and kind of use those internal rotators and drive the outside knee towards the inside boot. That's one way you get that triangle of doom. The other way that we end up with triangle of doom is when we counter too much, right? So when the hip opens up a lot, it's the inside knee that ends up moving towards the outside knee. And there's your triangle of doom. So if you see the triangle of doom at the end of the arc, which is where you always do, forget about it. I always say when I was teaching courses and we're working on assessment and development strategies, when you see something in a certain part of the arc, you can't talk about it anymore. You can't look at it. You can't talk about it. You have to look at some other part of the arc, compare what your skier what the moves they're making to the moves that your robo skier is making. And if there's a move missing, add that move to their skiing. And that's, going to keep you away from either driving that knee for this specific example or countering too much and getting the inside knee to move towards the outside knee.
Awesome. We'll help Virgilia out here. She was just looking for your number 2 point there, Warren, if you can remind her, and then I'll bring up the next question for you.
I missed the second one, rotation. To connect
and platform. I think they were from your presentation.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was from one of the questions I just answered.
Nope.
Yeah. So, in the drills and things, there's the connect. So that ability to balance towards the outside ski. Where did it go? The third one is the aligning rotationally. In the drills video, that's where the poles were across the hips, where you could really feel how much when the pelvis moves, how much everything kind of turns on the arc. And then the third one is the platform creation.
Awesome. And then from Victor here.
Oh, okay. Thoughts on improving ankle flexion. I have flat feet, which puts me at a disadvantage, ending up slipping turns. Oh, that without seeing it, might be hard to answer, but let me give it a try. So ankle flexion, all of our boots have some sort of forward lean, right? In the ankle. If you have extreme ankle flexion without ski boots on, having a boot that's a little bit stiffer is going to help you with that. The flat feet, in the sense that when we have flat feet, you overpronate in the ankles, and then the toes kind of work outwards that way, sort of thing. That will then possibly, or for a lot of us, force us to counter a little bit more. And then, if we counter too much, we end up on the inside ski. And that's possibly why you're losing the outside ski. Going back to the ankle flexion, in a carved arc, in a big carved arc, even a short turn, even in the bumps, unless you're hitting a big bump and you're out of balance, the range of motion in the ankle joint is quite minimal. My boot doesn't have, if you look at every boot on the market, they don't flex very much, even when you're inside at 20 degrees. And you would never need that range while skiing. We definitely want to make sure that our shins are in contact with the front of the boot at all times. And then from there, as forces build, we don't want to fight those forces. So we don't need more flexion in the ankle or in the boot, because if we balance and align to those forces and the turn shape that the ski's design is working for us, then that force actually gets redirected around the corner, right? So there shouldn't be a ton of ankle flexion to start with. I would look more at your rotational alignment to start with, as opposed to thinking that it's specific to ankle flexion. But I'd need to see some video and stuff like that, Victor, you can always scoot me an email if you want further, if I missed the boat on that question.
And Warren, interestingly enough, there was a comment in the chat. Not sure, Linda was just suggesting that if Victor wanted to check out some exercises for swimmers for ankle mobility, because there could be something there that might benefit you in your training.
Very cool.
I'll bring up another for you. This might be our last. No, we've got one more after this. So Drew's asking about a Tabata routine. Not sure if that's something you're familiar with, Warren.
Yeah, absolutely. I would find that on a competition day or a real performance day. Not so much a longer training block, but if I've got to get up for a ski off or a race or anything like that, then absolutely, right? Because this is really going to get your heart rate up. It's going to get the muscles firing. You're going to work up a bit of a sweat, that sort of thing. And then, but boom, you go and performance, kind of hits, pretty much immediately after that.
Awesome. And where did it go? We had one more. That was a good one. There we go. From Marcus. So if we're looking at your vertical stance, so how straight your legs are or your joints, we tend to, it's kind of funny actually. I did this last year where actually I put a big thick piece of tape up the inside of my pants on the inside of the leg with kind of 1-inch markers on it, and I videoed myself going through short radius turns and long radius turns and trying at different points, pausing and trying to see, how much range was in my leg joints at different times, different parts of the arc, different turn shapes, terrain, carved, less carved, that sort of thing. And it's really, really minimal. The difference, it's really only a few inches in which, say my belt would get closer to the top of my boot. Right, that range is not a lot. Now, that'll change in bumps, and a few things, but in performance skiing, it really isn't a lot, even in short radius turns. In the short radius turn, as I ski through transition, I'm about the same height and same off the snow. If you take a look at it from there, what looks different is, and the leg length doesn't really change a ton between the short and the longer turns. In a longer turn, my leg does get a little bit longer, but that's because you end up tipping the ski over more. And so as we tip the ski over more, the hip looks like it gets closer to the snow, but the leg length doesn't get shorter to get closer to the snow. And it actually it ends up being a little bit longer just to stay balanced against the forces. So the one key thing though is if you don't have flexion and to balance you, because again, like I said, there's that flexion in the ski boot because there's forward lean, right? If I've got shin contact there and I need to feel my heel pad, I'm going to have a bend in the knee joint as well. And then to have my glutes engaged at that point, so I can actually effectively tip the ski over using the internal rotators and the adductor group of muscles, then there has to be a bit of range there in the hip as well. So, there's not a lot of bend in the waist, because when you do that, that's when you start to pinch off at the hip flexor and in the hip joint, right? So yeah, there's got to be enough bend so the glutes are engaged to activate the movement patterns that we've been talking about in this series. As a result, if I get too straight, then I don't have the same access to that move. It doesn't tip the ski over, it'll twist it a little bit more. So a performance short radius turn, if I'm trying to carve more, then you'll see my stances looks a little bit lower. If I'm skiing, I've got an intermediate skier behind me and I need to twist the skis on the snow, then I am a little bit taller,
because that's what gives me access to the movements that are required to twist the ski to get that little bit more of a, you know, a skidded arc going as opposed to a carved arc.
Awesome. And I've got one last here from Steve, which somewhat relates.
The firing order to create early and maintain platform is ankles, knees, and less hip. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been so much preoccupation of us trying to get our, and I'll say a bad word here, but ass to the grass. That everybody, a lot of people are trying to move the hip first, right? They're trying to get the hip closer to the snow as opposed to tipping the ski over. And now that if you are standing properly, like we just discussed in the previous answer, then it's impossible to roll the foot without the adductors, the knee moving inward a bit and the internal rotators starting to work. It's also impossible to start at that part of the kinetic chain and not have the foot roll over. So I love to ski by feeling my feet on the bottom of the boots. So, my first thought is try to roll into that inside of the met head or inside of the heel pad, that kind of idea, having the glutes engaged so I can actually access the muscles, and that effort to roll gets the ski tipped over onto edge, get that platform balanced high up in the arc. So absolutely, ankles, knees, less ankles and knees, more, try to roll to the inside of your foot, the met head heel pad, and try to use an adduction move, right? So and the internal rotation of the femur as well, because the knees don't really, well, we hope they don't move sideways, right? So it's more, think more of the musculature and that effort as opposed to a joint trying to move a certain way. But 100% stay away from moving the hip first, please, please, please.
Awesome. Warren, yeah, we had a pile of questions tonight. That was fantastic. And that brings us to the wrap. To the teams, we're still 100 plus with Team Canada on the ice. That's great. Thanks for sticking out with us tonight. If you've joined us for all 3 sessions now, I really, really hope you've enjoyed your time with Warren. It's always been a blast hosting these and seeing the excitement pre-season and early season to get out on snow and train and think and ski better. So I really hope you've enjoyed the series. I've had a few reminders. If you're looking to pick up the videos and you've missed them, you should receive an email prompt. If you do not, you're always welcome to join us on the CSIA Ontario Facebook or Instagram feeds, as well as CSIAontario.com. And on the website, we will post the links to all 3 videos. Those should go up in the coming few days. So if you have missed the content or somebody else who wants to pick it up, by all means, drive them that way, and we'll be happy to hook you up with that after the fact. With cold weather returning here to Ontario in the next few days, I hope you're looking forward to getting on snow. And if you're from another part of the country or the world where you're getting that cold weather and snow right now, enjoy it, make the most of it. I hope you have an awesome season, and we'll see you at an upcoming CSI Ontario event in the near future. Stay tuned. And Warren, thank you so much for the series.
Thank you, AJ, and thanks everyone for participating and hanging on. Somebody just messaged that it's overtime in the World Juniors and he had to go. So anyways, thank you all so much. I hope to see you on snow at one of my camps at some point, or out there. If you see me, I'm going to be in Ontario in February for a couple of weeks. If you see me on the hill, please come over and say hi. I'd love to say hi to you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on the snow.
Bye, everyone.